guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. It's rapid fire time, so let's hit it. This loser of a woman gets a job giving tours in an old rich home because the rich dude wants to get in her pants. The house is also haunted by the ghost of an 18th century Judy Greer who is determined to teach her about class. Oof, Justin Long's directorial debut is muddy and painfully unfunny. It's one joke. This chick is crude and has no class. Greer is classy but a snob, and it's a funny story about how they learn to grow from each other. Oh my god, hang me. There's the tired joke of a couple texting at the dinner table and not even to each other. It's like we're saying something about technology being bad. If the jokes aren't funny, then they don't make sense. Must register as a sex offender when it was both a case of entrapment, which is illegal, and the minor in question was 19 years old? What even is this movie? Definitely one of the worst movies of the year. Not quite a 1 out of 5, but it was flirting with that score. My honest rating for Lady of the Manor, a 2 out of 5.
And I won't have people thinking I behave like you. Come and miscreant.
Hey, I am not a miscreant. I don't think.
Scooby-Doo and Mystery Inc. finds themselves in the middle of nowhere where both Scooby and Courage are affected by a strange noise that only they can hear and try to find out what it is. Oh, and they're also attacked by giant cicada monsters. I got a kick out of this, though if you're not a Courage fan, this may not be up your alley. Somehow a match made in heaven despite the polar opposite animation styles. I mean, an abnormal dog that can kind of talk that's scared of everything and deals with monsters? It makes more sense than you might think. For the most part, it works and perfectly blends the two ideas for these two iconic franchises. The Scooby Gang is pretty faithful to their original characters and Courage hasn't missed a beat. You get all the classic moments, the trippy doors, the disguises to fool the monster, and the monsters being real, kind of. Definitely all Courage. Issues include when Scooby has to play with Courage's animation style, it looks weird and off-putting sometimes. It's interesting, that's for sure. A lot of Courage references, some decent laughs, I recommend it. My honest rating for Straight Outta Nowhere, Scooby-Doo Meets Courage the Cowardly Dog, a 4 out of 5.
Hold the phone! There's a horrible, ugly monster driving that truck!
Call him Eustace, dear.
No, Fred is right. Eustace isn't...
Oh, my poor thing. Out here all alone? What courage you have. Would you like to come home with me? I'll call you Courage. We'll have a grand time.
This kid is a horror enthusiast and is kidnapped by Kristen Ritter, who is a witch and wants to hear scary stories, which the kid used to write and now plots to escape with this girl's help. It's kind of annoying, but I respect it for being a kid's movie with some intense horror imagery. I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is going to be some unappreciated scary kids movie. It's not very good. The kid characters can be fairly obnoxious. So much of the story makes zero sense, and it takes way too long for things to start making sense. Even when they do, it doesn't make that much sense in the end. But this movie does have my respect for a few things. Kristen Ritter is always a delight. Definitely channeling her Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23 energy, which was delightful. And the fact that she would have legit killed these kids if they didn't give her what she wanted is something you don't see often in kids movies anymore. There's freaky looking monsters that are scarier than the tiny monsters from It Chapter 2, and there's a lot that I know I would have appreciated as a kid. Adults who are well versed in the horror genre may not like this, but for kids, I do recommend it. My honest rating for NIGHTBOOKS, a strong 3 out of 5.
Can't do anything right. I said keep your eyes open!
Jake Gyllenhaal is a police dispatcher who tries to help a woman who's been kidnapped. Certainly a thriller that thinks outside of the box and has admirable qualities, but feels a little unfocused. When the story is just about Gyllenhaal trying to save this woman, it's surprisingly gripping and totally effective in its anxiety induction. I watched this entire movie on my Open Move Aftershocks bone conduction headphones, and let me tell you, the sound design alone was enough to send chills down my spine. When Gyllenhaal is talking to pretty much anyone how time is of the essence, it's enough to frustrate the crap out of you, but in the best way possible. And this is consistent throughout the story. The only downside is when the story veers off into the subplot that consists of something that Gyllenhaal's character did prior to the current events. Separation from his wife, hasn't seen his daughter in some time, it felt like a heavy-handed means of trying to find a way to give his character some sort of personal connection to the situation that wasn't necessary, and it crops up a lot in the movie. Imperfect, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't accomplish what it was setting out to do. I recommend it. My honest rating for The Guilty, a 4 out of 5.
Stay outside, alright? 10. Nadia, close the door.
Abby, get that.
10.
What's wrong with all of them?
Nadia, stay with him.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen II digs up events from the very first movie and finds himself haunted by visions of CANDYMAN, who systematically kills everyone who says his name in the mirror. It's not the worst horror outing of the year, has some good qualities about it, but it's not very good. Not that I'm overly familiar with the franchise, but wasn't Tony Todd synonymous to the character? Why are there suddenly so many Candymen, and how does this movie suddenly expect me to believe that each of them died in different ways, yet still retain a hook for a hand? Also, I don't quite get the monster. Why does Candyman kill people who say his name? Why not the people that actually killed him? I won't pretend that some of the deaths weren't well done, though others were insultingly PG-13. The performances out of the leads are really good, especially Yahya, even though his character does take quite some time to get used to, as he's not all that likable at first. And I would be lying if I said the final minutes of the movie wasn't a slice of pure awesomeness. But as a complete package, it falls pretty short. I have no idea what true Candyman fans think, but I don't care for this one. I don't recommend it. My honest rating for Candyman, a 3 out of 5. Set in Philadelphia, the Stranger Things kid is sent to live with his dad, Idris Elba, because his mom can't take his crap anymore. He learns to shovel crap, appreciate stuff, and learns lessons. Not all that bad, but where the focus should have been is not always where the focus was. The core of the story is opening the common person's eyes to the existence of the real urban horse riding culture in Philadelphia. There are trials and tribulations, and for the most part, it works. It's fascinating and really gets you sucked in thanks to the amazing acting by Elba and the rest of the non-actors. Almost reminds me of a Chloe Zhao flick. While this keeps it uplifted, where it flounders is when it's trying to tell the story about a kid with a penchant for getting into fights, whom we never see get into a fight or show any real hostility, running with a shady friend doing illegal stuff and wants to get out of his neighborhood. An estranged father and son finding common ground despite their different worlds, the narrative can get pretty jumbled and not nearly as fascinating as the stuff that it's trying to spotlight. I recommend it, just brace for the imperfections. My honest rating for Concrete Cowboy, a strong 3 out of 5.
See how it's cutting through? Like a cake. There you go. Oh, shit. Try not to make a mess, god damn.
French film based on true events. Frustrated beat cops Greg, Antoine, and Yas are given an opportunity to take part in one of the biggest drug busts in French history. It just narrowly crosses the line into being a good movie because there's a lot that feels recycled. For much of the movie, it feels pretty familiar. Street cops in a tough neighborhood justifying their brutality with the common person not knowing what it's like, blah 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 blah. I'd rather be trying to capture a shiny Pikachu. Of course, there's a big action set piece against that neighborhood, which admittedly was pretty cool. What sets this apart from similar flicks is how surprisingly well it's pulled off. The performances are otherwise not bad. A bit overacting at times, but the movie does a good job of balancing out the gritty life of these men with a more humane side that feels pretty natural. Each with their own morals and code of conduct, but you understand how these men see eye to eye. By the film's closing, you're on their side more than you're not. Link in the description for the true story, but as it stands, I thought this was pretty good. I recommend it. My honest rating for The Stronghold, a 4 out of 5.
Quand il faut bien que tu te foutes ça dans le testo, un gros dealer ou un petit pickpocket, ça fait pas de différence pour eux. Tu comprends?
French film. This girl whispers to dead people. Daddy has her committed to an insane asylum where she endures abuse. She plots her escape with the help of nurse director Melanie Laurent. Not my favorite movie involving mental illness this year, but not without valiant effort. I admit the first act was jarring as I had no idea what kind of movie this was going to be. A paranormal drama, a story about a young woman in the late 1800s who fights the patriarchy, it could have gone either way, and yet it ends up being a persecution film. While I don't know how many times I can see a movie like this and not think it's a cliche, I have to give credit, it's not just about a woman in this place who suffers at the hands of those who don't truly care about her. There is that, but it's balanced with some brighter moments with the main character developing close relationships with those who are also locked up here. It's predictable and the outcome may not surprise anyone, but I'd be lying if the resolution didn't tickle my fancy, even though I don't think the ending is as happy as it wants me to think it is. It's got some heavy stuff, not all of it works, but it has some satisfying payoffs. I recommend it. My honest rating for The Mad Women's Ball, a 4 out of 5.
Tu verras, tu seras Eugénie Guéry, la plus belle du bal. Écoute pas ce qu'elle dit, c'est une exaltée.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon. One final caveat as you guys move on with your day. I've decided to test my luck at a Patreon, so please consider supporting the channel. No obligations, of course. No content is gated off, but any and all support would mean a lot. Links in the description. Have a great one, folks.